Welcome to Community Roundtable. I'm your host, Henry Huang. Well, folks, we know that there are 12 initiatives that's going to be on the November ballot. And one of them is actually the most controversial, the most expensive. I think something around $60 million is spent on the proposition. Folks, you know what I'm talking about. It's Proposition 8. Proposition 8 talks about same-sex marriage. It's also one of the, probably I said, is the most concerned about in the Chinese American, the Asian American community. Well, today we have two guests at our show. It's going to help me to discuss about this proposition. First off, I'd like to introduce to my right is Karin Wang. Karin is the Vice President of AsianPacific American Legal Center here in Los Angeles. She's also the Executive Vice President of AsianPacific American Bar Association of Los Angeles County. Welcome to the show,
Thank
Karin.
You.
And to her right is Katy Lee. Katy is a realtor, a parent, and also a supporter of Proposition 8. So I want to say thank you for coming to the show and discuss about the Proposition 8, why is it so controversial, and why we spend so much money on it. Okay, well, let me first start out with Katy. I know you are a supporter of Proposition 8. Would you mind share with our viewers why you support Proposition 8?
Well, first of all, Henry, thank you for having me on the show. It is a very hot topic, and there are good arguments for both sides. I just want to remind the viewers that back in 2000, voters had voted into law to define marriage as between a man and a woman, Proposition 22. And 4 judges overturned that decision of the will of the people. And so that's why we are here at Proposition 8, to basically put back what the people had voted back in 2000. So, we live in America where we expect our voices to be heard, our votes to count. And when people voted, we expect that to become law. And yet now we have 4 judges that overturned the will of the people. Even a lesbian, Tammy Bruce, when that happened, she even said that when San Francisco mayor passed out gay marriage certificates, that was a reckless law-breaking behavior. Even she, as a lesbian, recognized that. And it's just not right about that. And so here we are with Proposition 8, mainly just putting back to what it was, only marriage between a man and a woman is valid and recognized in California.
Okay. Thank you, Katy. And Karin, why you is voting against Proposition 8?
Well, thank you for having me also. And it's very timely. As we all know, this is going to be voted on shortly by all of us. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about the no side. I agree that it's a controversial issue, that there are a lot of things being put forward by both sides. And I really encourage the viewers to really examine, what is true about the issue. So I wanted to mention that, my profession is as a lawyer, and I take my profession seriously. Basically, what I went to law school to learn was to understand what the law requires, what the law does to us as a society, and I also feel that I have a special burden as a lawyer to really understand what it is I'm talking about. So I do feel like the things I'm going to say today, I have spent a great deal of time over the last 3 years trying to understand, and that I have come to a decision to support no on Proposition 8 based on nearly 3 years of work on this particular issue. In response to the points that were raised, I do want to point out a couple things. One is that in 2000 there was a vote on a statutory amendment.
Right. Well, I know there were a lot of issues about this Proposition 8, right. But that's great. Let's just start off with what Katy raised.
I just wanted to respond to the 2000 Proposition 22.
Right. I mean, what Katy has raised, and then we can start from that, to get into our program is, let's talk about the 2000 initiative that got passed. I believe it was 61% of the voter passed that one. Let's go ahead and talk about that one.
Okay, yeah, so thank you. So what I wanted to point out was, first of all, that was eight years ago. It was actually more than 8 years ago when that was voted. I believe it was in the February election. It was actually a small turnout election. So one thing I think voters should think about is that, we in America have unfortunately had significantly lower voter turnout than we do in many other countries, which is interesting because many people base their democratic systems and their voting systems on the United States. People hold us up as a model. When they become a democratic country, they want to be like the U.S. But in other countries, they take that right to vote a little more seriously than we have in America. And there's been probably something in the newspaper every single day for at least a month now about, the turnout, whether people are going to turn out, how many people are registered. And so I did want to point out that 61% of the voters who voted did not represent what I consider to be the will of the people. In the state of California, now we have 36 million people. I believe at the time, 60% of the voters was something like 4 or 5 million people that went to the polls. So what you have to think about is you have people who live in California, then you have those who are registered to vote, and then you have those who actually go out to vote. And it's true that 60% of the voters that voted in 2000, 8.5 years ago, did vote to pass a statutory amendment. But I think that if we're Asians, we're supposed to be good with numbers, right? If you look at the numbers, I don't think that represents the will of California or the will of the people or the will of Los Angeles County. So I think that's something important for people to keep in mind. And also, I would also just add that it's also been almost 9 years since that election. And what happens over time is that public opinion shifts. And so where the public was and where the voters were almost 10 years ago, 8 to 9 years ago, is very different than where we are now. Even with Asian American voters, the trend is, in all the polling, is showing that people are much more open now to gays and lesbians, and it's straight people as well as gay people who feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you a question. Actually, I need to know this answer myself. When you vote on the initiative, because we were talking about, you said 61% voted yes, but it was because of a small turnout. It doesn't reflect the will of the people in California. Mm-hmm. How does the initiative get passed? I mean, is it a simple majority of the people that actually voted? Or actually, how does that work?
Well, it was interesting in California, and this is not true in every single state in the country, is that, yes, it takes a simple majority. So it's 50% plus one person, 50% plus one person is enough to change. In this case, what we're talking about is amending the state constitution.
Of the people voted or the whole population?
It's of the people who vote.
Of the people who
vote.
Right.
So anything that's a voter issue is really, and that's why it's important how many people we get out to vote, because it is the number of voters who go to the polls and a number who vote a certain way that matters. So for people who maybe haven't decided yet if they're going to go out and vote on Tuesday, I think it's important to know that if you don't vote, somebody else could be making a decision that could affect you. And that's why we emphasize, people should go vote. Asian Americans have to vote. We're a big part of this county. We want to have a voice.
Well, and Henry, that is part of the democratic process. There's no quorum, so to speak, that says you need a certain number of registered voters to vote or a certain percentage of the population in order for the initiative to pass. So whether or not voters come out to vote should not affect the outcome. Whether it's a small percentage, large, there are many initiatives, propositions. Probably back in the 2000 election, I don't know, I haven't looked at all the research, but there are probably some that passed or did not pass based on small voter turnout. Now, do you go and revote all those and make sure everybody turns out to vote before you say, okay, that's passed? So, that's probably irrelevant what the voter turnout is, because if it's overmajority and 22 did not pass by squeaking number, not like a 50.5%, it was 61%. So, of the people who came out to vote, a majority passed it.